In this video, we will be adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. In my previous video, we learned that when we add fractions with the same denominator, we only add the numerators. So here I have two fractions. Now, you would have seen these in the previous video, and underneath either fraction I have a model. The model represents the fraction. Each model is split into 8 equal parts, so I have denominators of 8. I have 2 eighths and I have 4 eighths. Now when I add those together, that gives me an answer of 6 eighths. Now, nice and easy, we know that we only add the numerators and we leave the denominator as 8 because my shape here hasn't got any bigger. It still has 8 parts. Now, if we can remember how to simplify, then we're going to simplify this this fraction. So I have 6 eighths. Now I know it can be simplified because they are both even numbers. Now to simplify, you have to find the biggest number that both can divide into exactly. So for 6 and for 8, it will be 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So 3/4 is the simplified term. Here I have two fractions. They have, you will notice, different denominators. So let's have a look to see if we can work out what to do. Now we know that to add fractions, we know it's much simpler to have them have the same denominator. So we are going to make them both have a common denominator. So to do this, we must find the lowest common multiple. Okay. So I have, let's just have a look at our fractions. We have 3 sixths and I have 2 thirds. So I need to find the lowest common multiple of 6 and of 3. Now I'm going to show you a way to do this, and you can practice this way, but as time moves on and you have questions similar to this in a mental arithmetic test, you'll have to get to grips with your times tables, because using methods like the one I'm going to show you, although it works, it often takes quite a lot of time. So you must know your times tables, and this process will be done much, much quicker. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to list my 6 times table. And I'm going to do this because I have a denominator of 6. Now I'm not going to go too far down. I'm going to stop at 12 for a moment. And now I need to do the same but for 3. So 3, 6, 9. And I'm going to pause. Now the reason I'm going to pause is because I have gone so far with both times tables and have come to the same number in both. So if you can have a look at the number that appears in both columns, and that is 6, good. So I'm going to put a ring around 6, because 6 is the lowest common multiple of 6 and of 3. So if I get rid of this for a moment, now I'm going to keep 6 in my head because I know that's my lowest common multiple, which means it will be my lowest common denominator. Now I am going to go ahead now and I'm just going to rewrite this fraction. Now the reason I can just rewrite it is because it already has a denominator of 6. So 3 sixths. Now I have to do something different with this fraction because it has not got a denominator of 6. So I have to think, what did I do? What did I do to 3 to get to 6? What do you have to do to the number 3 in order to get the number 6. I had to times it by 2. So because I had to times the denominator by 2, I have to times the numerator by 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. Now I cannot just leave it like this because I haven't added them. All I've done here is I've made them have the same denominator. So now both fractions have the same denominator. I can go ahead and add them. So I'm going to put my denominator first this time because I know it will be the same. It's 6. And I have here 3 add 4. I know 3 add 4 is 7. Now unfortunately I've run out of room, so I'm going to have to go underneath because this 7/6, you will know that that is an improper fraction. Now I don't want to leave my fraction as 7/6. I want to express it as a mixed number fraction. So if I go underneath, hopefully this is clear, children, I apologise if it's not. I am going to go ahead and convert my improper fraction to a mixed number. If you've forgotten how to do this, go back to the converting mixed numbers and improper fraction videos, which I think will be video 4 and video 5. Now I need to have a look how many 6's I have in 7. Now the improper fraction, it tells me that 7 is more than 1 whole. 7/6 is more than 1 whole because the whole here would be 6/6. So I know that I have 1 whole. If you were to hold up 7 fingers, you know that you have 1 group of 6 and you have 1 remaining. So 1 whole and 1/6. Now remember that this line here, it means divide. Okay, so if you were to divide 7 divides 6, you know you'd have 1 with 1 remaining. So this is how I have come to my answer. I have used division, I've just done it in my head. If we have a look at another example, I have 1/10 and I have 3/5. Now I'm going to show you again how I am going to work this out. I'm going to use the same method. Now there are other methods that you could use. You can sometimes multiply the two denominators together. However, the risk here is that you don't always get the lowest common multiple. You definitely get a common multiple, but it won't always be the lowest common multiple, because I know and you know that 10 times 5 is 50. But there is a far smaller number that will be the denominator than 50. So if I go ahead and I start listing some of my multiples and stop there, I'm going to stop as soon as I get a common multiple, and that common multiple, if you can see it, is 10. So although here I got a common multiple, 10 is in fact the lowest common multiple. So you must be careful if you're going to multiply the denominators together. You must be careful and watch that you are actually using the lowest common multiple. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rewrite this fraction. So the first one I just copy exactly as it is already expressed, because it already has a denominator of 10. Now I don't think I've left myself enough room again, have I? Now here I have 3/5. What did I do to my 5 to get to 10? I timesed it by 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. 3 times 2, well, I know that's 6. And now that both fractions have the same denominator, we can go ahead and add them together, nice and simple. I know that my denominators will be 10. And I know that 1 add 6 is 7. Now 7/10 is the answer, and that is in its lowest term because 7 is an odd number. Okay, another example. This time we have 3/4 add 1/12. Why not pause the video here and see if you can have a go at answering this question. When you're finished, come back, unpause the video, and we'll see how you did. Okay. Hopefully you've had a good go and you've managed to remember the methods that we've been practicing. Now this time I'm not going to use my columns to find the lowest common multiple. I am going to use my times table knowledge. And I know that the lowest common multiple of 4 and of 12 is 12. So I'm going to put my 2 denominators in already. And this fraction here is already expressed with the denominator of 12. So I'm just going to copy that one straight over. This one, however, is not. What did I do to 4 to get to 12? If you know your 4 times table, you'll know I timesed 4 by 3. 4, 8, 12. Now if you remember, whatever we do to the bottom, we must do to the top. You will know that 3 times 3 is 9. So I have 9/12, add 1/12. Now we must remember not to leave it here. We must remember that we have to actually calculate these once we have found the same denominators. Now you can go ahead and have 12 for your denominator, and then 9 and 1 is 10. 10/12. Now those of you that are getting better at simplifying fractions, you will have noticed already that this fraction is not in its lowest term. It can be simplified further. Now again, I haven't left myself much room, so I'm going to rewrite the fraction down here at the bottom. 10/12. I know that the number I'm going to divide by is 2. 10 divided by 2, well that's 5, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. 5/6, and we know we're done there because 5 is an odd number. Let's have a look at another example, this time subtraction. The same method must be applied, it's just that we're using a different operation. 3/4 subtract 5/8. Now again, I'm going to do this without writing out my multiples, my times tables. I know that the lowest common multiple of 4 and of 8 is 8. And this time I must remember it's subtraction. Now again, this fraction here is already expressed with the denominator of 8, so I can just copy it over. This one, however, is not. What did I do to 4 to get to 8? I timesed it by 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, you must do to the top. 3 times 2 is 6. Now that we have got the same denominators, we go ahead and add our denominator on. And I've got a simple calculation of 6 subtract 5. Well, I know that's 1. And I know 1/8 is in its lowest term. Another example then, 7/10 subtract 1/4. Why not pause the video here and see if you can have a go at finding the lowest common multiple? Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to calculate these two fractions and have got an answer. Now, finding the lowest common multiple of these two denominators is slightly different this time. Now, the method I'm going to use this time, because I know what the lowest common multiple is, I'm going to times these two together. And I know that 10 times 4 is 40. Now, If you were to go ahead and list the multiples of 10 and a 4, you will see that the lowest number that both columns land on is 40. Okay, so 40, subtract, and then 40. So I've got my denominators ready. Now this time, I haven't already got 40 as a denominator. So let's start with the first fraction. What did I do to 10 to get to 40? Well, I timesed it by 4. So I must times the top by 4. So you will see the numbers are getting slightly trickier, slightly bigger. 7 times 4, 7, 14, 21, 28. 28. And I have here 1/4. What did I do to 4 to get to 40? I timesed it by 10. So I must times the top by 10. 1 times 10 is 10. Now to subtract the two of these, I leave 40 as a denominator. And I'm going to do 28 subtract 10. Well, that's nice and easy. I know that's 18. Now again, for those of you that are increasing in confidence of simplifying fractions, 18/40. Now, we know they're even numbers and they're quite big numbers. Now, what number could we divide both by? Let's try 2. Now I'm rewriting it at the bottom. Divide them both by 2. 18 divided by 2. How many 2's in 18? Well, that's 9. And 40 divided by 2. How many 2's in 40? I know that's 20. And we're going to stop there. 9/20 is the answer to this fraction written in its simplest term. Okay, one more example. I have 2/5 minus 2/12. Now I need to find the lowest common multiple of these two numbers. Let's go back and see if you can remember how to do it. I want you to pause the video here and I want you to write a list of your 5 times table and a list of your 12 times table. And I will do mine. Let's see if you have written yours correctly. Now I'm going to pause there for a moment. And I'm going to start to write some of my 12's out. And then you can see if you need to extend some of your 5's. Okay, I'm going to pause my 12's there for a moment and I'm going to extend some of my 5's a little bit more because I haven't yet got to the number that I need. So I'm going to extend. Can you think about what number I might land on? What number do you think is coming up? There we are, 60. So if I circle both of those. Now if you were to have multiplied these two together, you also would have got the answer, 60. Okay, keep 60 in your head. Now I'm going to have denominators of 60 and I'm subtracting. Okay, what did I do to 5 to get to 60? I timesed it by 12. So I must times the top by 12. 2 times 12 is 24. What did I do to 12 to get to 60? I timesed it by 5, so I must times the top by 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Now if we work out the answers to these two fractions, 24 subtract 10, well that is 14. Let's have a go at simplifying these fractions. Let's squeeze it on a little bit down here. 14 sixtieths. Now if we divide both of them by 2, I know that's 7 and that's 30. 7/30. Well done. Now it's over to you. I would like you to write down all of these fractions. You have 3 addition and 3 subtraction. I want you to have a go at finding the lowest common multiple so that both fractions have the same denominator. When they do, you will find it very easy to add or subtract them. When you've got an answer, have a look to see if your answer is an improper fraction. If it is, see if you can turn it into a mixed number. If it's not an improper fraction and you have a proper fraction, like this here, 7/30, see if you can simplify it if it's not already in its simplest form. Come back and we'll go through the answers. Okay, so these are the answers that you should have gotten. So for the first one, you should have got 9/14. For the second one, you should have got 7/16. 15/16 for the third one. And then for subtraction, you should have got 7/10. You should have got 5/10 or half. And for the final one, you should have got 3/12 or 1/4. Okay, well done. If you have a look in your pack, you will have very similar questions that you can apply today's learning to. If you get stuck, rewatch the video and go back through some of the examples, and then hopefully you'll remember how to solve the questions.